I get asked again and again, why is there such a variation in the severity when it comes to the fibromyalgia patient? There are some fibromyalgia patients that are raising their children, holding down a job, and there are others that can barely get out of bed into the bathroom. Why is there such a variation in the level of severity? Let me attempt to address that in this brief video. Let me draw your attention to the functional medicine iceberg, if you will. You'll notice the tip of the iceberg, which is the portion that is above the surface of the water. It is clearly visible. This is where the diseases are recognized. Although there are several different diseases represented here, each of these diseases actually represents a set of symptoms or physiological deviations from normal or dysfunctions. The disease and the symptoms associated with the disease are caused by a variety of physiological abnormalities or deviations from normal. When I say that, it simply means there are different areas within your body that are not functioning properly below the surface. In this slide, these are broad categories, and each has to function properly in order to enjoy good health. If one or two of these areas are not functioning properly, you may be able to push through your day with a minor degree of pain and discomfort. When 3 or 4 or 5 of these areas are not functioning properly, you struggle to get out of bed. In this next slide, I've designed the fibromyalgia iceberg. The tip of the iceberg, of course, is where we see fibromyalgia syndrome. Remember that a syndrome is a set of symptoms that can be caused by a number of different underlying conditions. In this illustration, the conditions below the surface of the water are what we commonly find in the fibromyalgia patient. Let me give you a real-life example. I have a patient by the name of Delaney. She is a young woman in her early 20s that has yeast overgrowth and an autoimmune condition. She is a full-time graduate student and manages to get through the day with minor pain, GI distress, and fatigue. When you compare her to Dorothy, who had food sensitivities, yeast overgrowth, leaky gut syndrome, 2 different autoimmune diseases, gluten sensitivity, irritable bowel syndrome, along with toxic emotions that stem from childhood abuse as well as depression, you have a huge contrast. Dorothy can barely get out of bed and carry out her household activities, and Delaney manages to get through the day. After working with fibromyalgia patients for over 10 years, I've come to see that there is a fibromyalgia spectrum. That means there's a wide range of severity. The spectrum of severity is based on the number of underlying physiological deviations from normal. All fibromyalgia patients have multiple layers of dysfunction. Each of these dysfunctions are another burden that the patient has to bear. Picture a woman carrying a sack of rocks opposed to a woman carrying a boulder. Their ability to function is greatly hindered, but one is much worse than the other. Unfortunately, if a woman with just a few of these deviations from normal doesn't address them early, much like dominoes set up in a circle, when one falls, eventually they all fall, and the severity can worsen over time. In functional medicine, what we do is identify the burdens each fibromyalgia patient is suffering from and peel back the layers one at a time, lightening the load, removing the burdens, allowing the body to do what it does best, which is heal itself. I hope that helps to answer the question, why is there such a variation in the severity of the fibromyalgia patient? Thank you and have a great day.